Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and others. Welcome back to another Metal Gear Solid dev stream for our TTRPG, where we are building this TTRPG for you, the community, that we are going to be turning into a one-shot. So you guys are helping to influence the story and the characters, and today you guys are helping us influence building the character sheets. Ryu, if you're still watching, why are you here to spoil yourself?
Why are you here? Just to suffer?
They did say that they were going to bow it so not to be spoiled. So I appreciate that, because Ryu is going to be our Solid Snake for this run. So it's going to be hilarious and fun. But we're going to have some fun building today. We have 4 named characters and 2 unnamed characters we're going to be building today.
Yep.
The reason why 2 of them are unnamed is because, chat, you don't get to know.
No.
Stream is glitching out? How so?
I'm wondering if you're having the Google memory leak again.
I might be. Hold on. Let me grab the link.
If you're having the memory leak again, because if that's the case,
Give me a second. I'm gonna open it in Firefox.
I was about to say, yeah, open it up in Firefox, see if that's happened. It might be better. I'm watching stream to see if it helps.
I've killed the stream completely for my Google Chrome. Let's get some music going here.
It's slowly trying to catch up. Hold on, let me see if I can refresh it. Your computer is not happy with what's going on.
Apparently not. I might have to switch back models. Hold on. That might be the problem.
If you have to switch models now. Don't worry about it.
Okay, bear with me. I am going to vanish for a moment. Sagro, please keep them entertained while I get changed.
So chat, understand, we need to make a boss that's totally based on crab so we can have them break their knife. But how are you all doing? I am currently holding up the sheet hostage.
I think that's what it is. I think it was Warudo.
That could be it. Like, yeah, it looks like Warudo, like, the moment you ended Warudo, it just smoothed out on stream.
Okay, so that's good then. It's Warudo, not me.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think it would be you specifically. You know?
Alright, let's get the music back going. Excellent. Okay.
So, one thing I'm gonna mention though is, hi, I'm going to be your local resource for stat building, blocks, and all that today. So if you guys have an idea, I probably have the ability to translate it or find a reference to translate from.
Hooray! Do you have the Google Doc? If not, it should be in that section of the miniseries.
I have the Google Doc open from that we made just a little bit ago, but the series one. Give me just a moment. Got it.
All right, there we go. I'm back on screen. Let me get myself to the appropriate size so I am comparative.
Nell's 3D is too powerful.
Yeah, my 3D booba was too much for chat. All right. Get rid of the scarf.
And before they set you up with a 3D model of your current one.
Oh, you're painting Warhammer? Nice. All right.
Now we should be stable.
Yeah, now it should be a lot more stable.
So,
yeah, Connor said they wanted to join, right? So they are more than welcome to.
Yeah, Connor's more than welcome to join. I just didn't know how to say it right now. Let's see.
Okay, so let's pull up the sheet and we'll start going through our first built character that we have.
Hello.
Hello. You should be. Yeah, there you are. There's your little chibi. Okay, so Connor, if you want to, if you want to pull up the Google Doc, you are more than welcome to. If you want to look at the stream that I have going on in voice chat, you can see the character sheets as we build it. So, chat, we're going to take your input as we go here, but we're going to start with our Shrapnel Vulture.
All right. Shrapnel Vulture.
All right. So this character, I'm gonna read through the stats. They're not the stats, but the specs that we have for this guy. And then you can start giving us some thoughts and feedback, and we'll take some input from the chat as we go as well. So this person is part of the Spec Ops team. They are a former Marine and specializing in shotguns.
Okay, just off of rip, reading those three things, my immediate knee-jerk reaction is that we either have a fighter class or a ranger class. Hey, bye.
Hello.
And the reason why I specifically mentioned fighter or ranger, music's pretty loud compared to y'all.
Wait, give me a sec. I can fix that. Keep going.
Yeah. The reason why I immediately think of fighter or ranger because in the system of choice we're talking about, fighters are obviously, very strong, very much the combat-focused character, all of that. But at the same time, you have a scenario where in 3.5, Rangers had access to styles. And by using that style reference point, you could do a ranged-based ranger, obviously. Haha. Because there was like two weapon style or ranged, whatever. Specifically, it references archery, but in this case, it would be a ranged weapon. You could theoretically turn that into a shotgun, which multiple systems have support for.
Yeah, D20 Monitor does have shotguns.
So it wouldn't be hard to adapt the feats like rapid shot, mini shot, spread shot, cluster shot to a character like this.
Okay.
It'd be very easy.
Okay. So let's aim and let's build everybody at around level. How's level 5 or 6 sound? Or do we want to go a bit higher?
I say 6 is usually a good, if you're trying to make a decently, like, I'd say probably level 6 would be decently good for a entry level character, right?
Okay.
Especially in, like, for considering the context of what we're doing for the game. But I would definitely max it, like, the maximum a character should be outside of some very specific circumstances be 12. Because once you hit 4, 8, and 12, you have major step-ups in how powerful a character can be.
Alright, so let's have this entire storyline take place between 6 and 8.
Okay. I mean, that's perfectly fine with me, so... It would be an idea. Your high end would be level 8. Your lower end characters would be level 6.
Okay, so let's make Shrapnel early. Let's make him level 6.
Okay. So, level 6. All right. That being said, then. This then turns into our discussion of basically the Ranger level 6. He gets a favorite enemy type, he gets the ability to track, he gets his combat style bonuses, right? All of that going on.
Okay, so...
Pretty easy setup here. And he does notably, because Ranger, they do get a pet of some sort. So if you're feeling fancy, you're welcome to give them that.
In this situation, no, I don't think so. Also, hi, Tactical. Hello.
Hi, Tac.
And yes, the ammo types could be those could be the themes for the different types of shots. That's what I was thinking as well.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. You can use those feats and everything for, the different types of ammo types. So it's a way to go about things.
Yeah.
So, this being said, so ignoring wild empathy, which is the animal stuff, right?
Yeah.
This would mean he'd have a favorite enemy. So you basically choose one type of thing, and considering you're saying he's a Spec Ops team, that sounds like his favorite enemy would be humanoids of some sort.
Yep, because there's only humans and animals in Metal Gear.
Yep. So he would be notably better at taking on, calling out, tracking, etc. For his enemies.
Okay.
And then he gets a bonus of it. If I remember correctly, he'd be at +4 versus humans because of being level 6. So he's decently. He's gonna be a very, very hard enemy to shake or to trick.
He is a shotgun character, so.
Right. Taking this further, obviously he gets his combat style bonuses, right?
And we can flavor all the different combat techniques with different types of ammunition, like incendiary, buckshot, heavy shot, taser, C4.
Right. He gets because of how combat style works, he's effectively has rapid shot, and mini shot by base. So we don't have to worry about those, right?
Okay.
Level 6 means he also has his feats from level 1, 3, 5, and for being human.
Okay.
It gives you a good idea of like how much he's been trained, right?
One thing I don't want to do is I do not want to give him a dual wielding, because shotguns are a two-handed weapon.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that's not that is easy to avoid. Like that is an easy thing to avoid.
Yeah.
because
I would
idea,
like to give him maybe one of these that would help suppress recoil, or maybe
honestly,
one that could make it so that way he fires and does the pump action without having to use up an extra turn.
that would be rapid shot in this case. So what rapid shot
tactical,
does?
wait, we're just discussing mechanics right now. We're not discussing anything about the character per se, like the gender or the background or anything. Right now, we're just talking
We're
design
talking
wise.
purely mechanics, right?
Yeah.
So rapid shot is effectively the ability to make an extra attack within the same round, because you're just so well trained. So, and because he's level 6 as a ranger, he already qualifies at level +6/+1. So that means that would allow him to do 3 shots in a matter of the traditional 6-second window of a D&D turn base.
Yeah, so they would have that then. Okay. We don't want them to be pumping out too many shots, though. That's the thing.
The thing is that the rapid shot doesn't make you do it at your highest bonus. It still costs you to do it again. It just is not going to be as accurate, right?
Okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Mini shot is in the same vein, right?
Okay.
Where it lets you fire 2 arrows within 30 feet of an opponent. And well, in this case it'd be 3 arrows, quotations at once. Right?
So this would be essentially the buckshot.
This would effectively be like the buckshot, or in essence like a suppressive fire effect.
Okay.
So I'll put in parentheses like suppressing fire, right?
Okay.
And then rapid shot is quick succession, right? That way we have little notes on it. But yeah, so you have situations like that where you have ways to take the feats and abilities that he already has and convert them into literal training and ammo type, right?
Okay. All right. So what can we look at for those 4 feats that we can give them?
Well, this is then where you kind of depends on what you want to do, right? You're saying Spec Ops team, he's former Marine and he's a shotgun specialist, right?
Yeah. The other notes I have on here are cool, calm, collected, but the more they hurt, the more that essentially their mask starts to break. Bit of perfectionist.
Okay.
Normally a team player, but in this instance, they're going to be fighting solo.
Okay.
That's about all that we have on here. Now, one of the things that was in here was they were supposed to be androgynous or female.
Okay. So in this case, I was gonna say the gender of the character doesn't really matter too much mechanically at this moment.
Yeah.
Honestly, you could have Iron Will, right, as one of those feats where being caught off guard, being surprised, you have the collected mind, so it makes his will saves a little bit easier to make, right?
Okay.
Let's see. He's being a little bit of a lone wolf, so really that there's not much that helps a lone wolf.
Well, that's just it. They're being forced to a lone wolf. They're usually a party player. Usually good in a team.
That could be done as a drawback or a
So let's give them a trait or a feat here that would work better as if they were part of a team, because that would make sense for them.
So then there's actually one that I'm very familiar with, and it's one of my favorite teamwork feats from Pathfinder, and it's an easy conversion over.
Okay,
it's called Broken Wing Gambit.
Alright.
And it's a series of teamwork feats from Pathfinder that basically says, hey, you need to be able to bluff, you need to be able to work with a partner, right?
Okay.
And it says, if, whenever you make an attack on your opponent, you can use a free action to give that opponent a bonus to hit you, as if you messed up the roll, right? You bait them, right? And then if the opponent takes the bait, the allies around them get to take free actions on them, free attacks on them.
Okay.
So that would be a way you can add in that teamwork training there.
Okay, let's put that one in. Now they're going to be fighting solo, which is obviously not going to play into that, but that's the whole point of their character, right? So it makes sense that they would have picked something like that.
Considering you're saying they're part of a Spec Ops.
Yeah, the next ones we should focus on Spec Ops and be the fact that they were Marine.
So, there is what is it called? Okay, so in 5th edition D&D, and in many versions of D&D and other D20 based systems like Besem D20, there is an ability called Light-Footed. And Light-Footed basically says, hey, this individual is very difficult to track, right? And so it's good for the stealth side of the Spec Ops, not being able to be caught breaking in by the sound of footsteps or the like.
Okay.
So it may be one of those things where, like, let's say, because he's a shotgun specialist, he had to get very good at getting close and personal with his enemies for, like, breaching and such. Light-footed would then make sense because he could not leave a trail safely.
Okay, I like it. For the last one, though, we should give him one with a little bit more health to represent the fact that they would need the fortitude to use the shotgun more often. Because isn't there one that, like, gives you more health on level up?
Yes. It is called Toughness. It's literally what's called, Toughness.
All right, so let's give the Light-Footed and Toughness, I feel. Because I think that would make the most sense in this case. Because if they're that would make it so they're harder to take down, but it also means that therefore technically we could play it up as well, that they're able to handle the recoil of the shotgun better.
Yes. If that's the case, Rangers, I will note this, right? Rangers have a D8 hit die. So they are not the most healthy class, I'll be honest. But they are also not the most frail class either. So giving them toughness will definitely help with that.
Okay. I suggest we use, instead of rolling or point boy, let's go with stat spread, like the whatever the standard stat spread is.
Standard spread?
Yeah.
If we're talking standard spread, you generally have trying to remember all the numbers exactly.
It's like 8, 10,
standard
10,
array.
12, 14, 15 or something like that.
Yeah. I'm trying to, yeah, it's 15, 14, it's 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8.
Yeah, let's run with that.
Okay, so strength, dex, on, int, whiz, can't tell I'm practiced at doing this. Alright, so then if we're gonna talk purely stats, right?
Yeah.
Obviously Spec Op Teen, former Marine, shotgun specialist. Flavor-wise, you're saying he has this calm, cool, collected mask where he kind of has control of everything, right?
Yeah.
Until his mask starts to slip. That makes me think more along the lines that he probably is, while he's a team player, he's probably he or she is a gruff individual, right? 8 to 13 is the base NPC spread.
Yeah, but these are not base NPCs is the thing. These are Spec Ops Elite agents.
Though.
Yeah, these are boss characters.
Yeah, that's why.
So I want them to be a little bit tougher.
So yeah, give me one moment. I'll be right back. But yeah.
Sure. What gauge of shotgun is it? A 10 or a 12? You know what? I don't know enough to be able to answer that, Tactical. So why don't you tell me the benefits of both, and we'll determine. But yeah, the reason I want the higher stat spreads is these are the boss characters, whereas the grunts are going to be more grunty. The next gen special forces, basically. Although they're not going to be next gen special forces, these are going to be just regular soldiers that were recruited. I've already figured out where and when this is taking place. And I've already figured out how I'm going to tie things into lore to be absolutely bonkers. Let's just say if you've played more than the mainline titles, you will pick up what I'm going to put down.
Neil's gonna hear foam.
For those who want a hint, don't say anything, just react with an emoji. If you know what I'm going to say, if you know what I'm referring to here. King Poyoto, hello, welcome. But I'm going to say one location that is going to be referenced in this tabletop game. And if you know that, if you understand the reference here, go ahead and drop an emoji. Lake Nicaragua. Gauge fires a larger shell. They're relatively uncommon. 12 gauges are more common rounds. Honestly, I don't know much between the two other than a difference in size. In that case, then maybe the larger shell. That way allows for more options.
It makes sense that you need a larger shell for like more mechanics inside the weapon.
Exactly. Like if you're going to be firing different types of shells, maybe you have the 10 gauge.
Apologies. Anything that's come up since I stepped away?
We were talking about the size of the shell, and we were told 10 gauge shotguns have a larger shell but are uncommon, whereas 12 gauges are more common. So I'm thinking, based off of this, then it sounds like we would probably use the 10 gauge because that would allow for the more different weapons or more different ammo types.
I'm gonna stop you right there on that one. This one's a little bit more on my gun nut side here, right?
Oh, okay. Let's go.
So here's the thing: 10 gauge shotguns, yes, can hold more powder, more higher quality shells, etc., right? The problem with them is the fact is that because they are not common, getting anything made for them is not only a whole hell of a lot harder, but also considered illegal.
All right. Well, Vi brings up a good point. Metal Gear does tend to lean towards the silly gun.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Metal Gear does lean towards gun silly, please, right? But no, seriously, the 10 gauge shotgun is highly illegal in most countries. One of the only exceptions, I believe, is specifically South Africa and in northern Russia due to the animal attacks that do happen there. However, notably finding ammo and any modular bits and pieces that you may need is significantly harder without custom ordering. I mean,
we're making it the 10 gauge.
Then yeah, no, I want to point that out specifically.
You are making it the 10 gauge.
Yes.
And we are going to make it so this guy makes his own ammo.
Ooh.
Okay.
Sorry, this character makes their own ammo.
So I'm gonna put down that he needs to have craft gunsmith listed.
Yes.
Right. Makes own ammo. Like, I'm down for that. Don't get me wrong.
You said some magic words in there that are key to the story that we already discussed.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I'm aware. Why do you think I said them?
Sagro knows the magic words.
I'm just pulling some Kojima shit out of my ass all of a sudden.
Oh man, I'm so sorry for you. That has to come out there.
12 gauge is really the only pick, but then again, don't let that stop you. We're talking about series where revolvers are considered the peak weaponry. Look, it's the greatest handgun ever made. The Colt single action army, 6 bullets, more than enough to kill anything that moves.
You gotta understand, Snake. Because the chamber goes around in a sideways A formation, it has infinite ammo.
Listen, anything can be used as a good weapon. Just put on a snazzy headband.
All right. Let's give this person some stats, please.
Okay. So, like we were saying with standard array,
They
honestly,
need some good constitution and some good strength for that shotgun.
right. So I was saying the 15 and the 13 should go in those base stats immediately.
Okay.
14 I'd say would go in the dexterity because that is their aiming stat.
Okay.
You know, you got to be able to aim, right?
Okay, I'm in.
This is where I start to deviate, right? We already talked about him having some gruffness, some anger issues. I think having a low charisma makes sense, even if he is a good team player.
Yeah, having a
Right.
good team player does not necessarily mean that they're a good person.
Just because you work well together doesn't mean you're nice or pretty or anything else. Because funnily enough, a lot of people forget charisma also does technically represent an influence of not just your appearance, but also your personality. So
Yeah.
having a gruff personality could represent that, right? That leaves 12 and 10.
I would say they would have to be smart enough in order to be able to make their own ammo.
Fair enough. So that would be 12 in intelligence and 10 in wisdom.
Yeah.
This is also not accounting for the human +2 bonus to 1 stat, but you know that's besides the point.
I don't think we need to worry about that really, but if we were going to put it in, I would probably put it into their dexterity for them being able to hit.
Fair enough. We'll set that up. All right. So this would end up with their final totals being +1, +3. Can I have the 3, please?
No.
+2, +1,
+0 and -1.
+0, and -1. Which is honestly a pretty good spread for a boss level character.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that is a good spread for a boss level character. And this also would mean that their HP, we'll just put their HP real quick. And we'll move all this again, right? We can make more finalized character sheets after this, right?
Yeah.
But like, this is the off rip. With the D8, are we rolling their... You mentioned you didn't want to roll their HP.
No, I want...
Are we just...
for boss characters, I want to max it.
All right, so 6 times 8 is 48 plus the toughness bonus of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? So I think that would be like, what, 56?
Sounds about right.
So 56.
I'd like you to put a second number next to that.
Okay.
I want you to take off 20%.
20%. Okay. Give me a sec.
Round it up.
That's about 11.
Okay, so 45 would be the difference. So instead of the 11, put 45.
Yep.
So 45 is going to be the stamina damage. So if Ryu is using the trank shots instead of regular shots.
There you go.
I want to have the stamina damage being 20% less, but if Ryu's using stamina bullets, like the tranks and stuff like that, those do a lot less damage.
Right. Okay.
Make sense?
Okay, I see this. Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
So
we
that's
should give
Shaka
them.
Vulture in a nutshell.
We should give them at least one extra weakness on Rip here.
Okay, so just shifting this over a little bit, right?
Yeah, because I want them to have a weakness that we know of.
Let's see. Weakness. So the way weaknesses traditionally work in most D20 based systems is that you give them either a weakness to a very, very uniquely specific thing, be it a metal, werewolves and like werewolves in silver, vampires in holy water, being particular materials, or you go along the lines of specific damage types, right? In the case of ghosts, for example, right? Or actually, no, most undead. Skeletons are weak to blunt, but they resist slashing and piercing. Zombies resist blunt, but are weak notably to slashing, right?
Tactical says shotguns jam a lot.
Well, in Pathfinder, because of my extensive knowledge here, if you roll a 1 on any gun-based combat attack, your gun jams, and you are given a free action to see if you can clear it. Considering he is going to be using a custom gun, it may be a situation where he is not aware of the environmental effects of this. Okay. So you could say give it a 10% jam rate, perhaps.
So on a 1 or a 2?
On a 1 or a 2, yeah. That way,
I want to increase that a little bit more. Let's do a 1 to a 4. 1 to a 4 it jams.
Gun jams on 1 to 4. DC to clear 18. This is offer.
Make it 16 to clear. Okay.
Okay.
But if he's below half health, not stamina, half health, the DC is 20. Because he's losing his cool. That plays into the losing their cool after taking damage. How does that sound?
The little note. I'm perfectly fine with that, right? I put as a DM note, roll d20 plus the gunsmithing skill plus intelligence, because obviously it'd be using that intelligence score of understanding his gun to do that.
Yeah. All right. Either should we raise the difficulty or give him disadvantage on the roll when he's below half?
I think disadvantage feels more. I think disadvantage is thematically more appropriate because it's the panic, the frenzy, whatever you want to call it.
Okay, then yeah, let's do, if they're below half, it's disadvantage.
And I mean, and I will say this, I will say this considering there are types of tech in various rule books and everything that I know of that can force low rolls. So there are perhaps ways that we can enable this during that mission.
Okay.
But that's just me talking a little bit out loud about mechanics.
All right. Let's see.
Yeah, no, Dragon can just resub to you for now 3 years.
Yeah, it's been 3 years, Dragon King. Thank you so much. That's amazing.
Yippee!
But yeah, we got a pretty good little note block here of Shrapnel Vulture.
All right. We don't have as much detail in the next one, but I think we have some good ideas to work with. Let's move on over to Inferno Salamander.
Okay, so Inferno Salamander. Okay.
All right. So let's get those stats written down first.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just I'm copying what we have here, right?
Yep.
And then I can clear off all of the extra bits.
Yep.
So we already kind of have a format how this is kind of set up.
Yeah. DK wants to know if you've saw the text earlier.
I did see the text earlier, Dragon King. That's super cool, and I'm glad and happy for you, man. All right. So we now have our setup.
Yep. So for our Inferno Salamander, let me get some details going here, and then we can figure out exactly what we're doing. Once again, everybody here is human, so.
Yep. That's why I'm just putting 1, 2, 3, 4, and
Yeah. We have them as they are going to be our flamethrower specialist.
Okay.
I have listed here they're older because they're a veteran from Vietnam. They are not part of normal military. They are from a PMC. Private military company.
Okay.
And a bit of a germaphobe.
Okay.
The thing on this fight is specifically this fight is going to be a timed fight.
And I'll just highlight that with a little bit of red background.
Yeah.
To make sure that we're aware of that.
Yeah. Because the idea is when we go in, when our snake goes into this room, it's going to be sealed airtight. And he has an air tank. Our snake does not. And he's using a flamethrower, which is going to eat up all that oxygen.
Exactly. So that's going to cause some... Okay.
Oh, you bought a 2021 Harley Davidson Classic? Nice.
Yeah, considering he's a little bit on the older side. Trying to think about this, right?
I would say this would also be a level 6 character. Or a level 5, one or the other.
See, this is where I'm a little goofy. I think I would reference is it called Flame Dancer? Yeah, Flame Dancer. Okay, cool. So there is a bard-based archetype in Pathfinder known as Flame Dancer. Within their first couple levels, they learn how to protect themselves and others from the pain of their own flames, right?
Okay.
So saying he's a little bit older, maybe making this also gives him, if we say he's level 6 again, right? This means he'd also have the ability to bend fire from other people. Now, I will say Bard is a more magical focused class.
All right, but as long as we work with this to make it more in line with the scientific aspects, there is a little supernatural in Metal Gear, as we saw with Psychomantis and whatnot, but I want to limit that as much as possible.
But what I was going to say is that some of this can be justified, right? So, for example, the whole thing of fire break, there is the idea of adjustable flame streams. So you could bend the flame away from oneself or towards one another. You can use flammable wire in some cases, right? Actually, this is something that I found out about recently, going through some old research of World War II and Vietnam. Did you know they used to lace some detonation wire with napalm so it would leave flaming trails? As acting as firewalls to cover retreats?
Really?
It is nasty. It is nasty how much they used in napalm and other chemical agents like that.
Well,
to
Vietnam was the
burn
first use of
things.
napalm, so
Right. So imagine using walls of literal fire to scorch rainforests down to cover your retreat.
yeah. Okay, that fits
All
with
you
the
would
older
have to do is
Vietnam bet.
effectively press a button.
The boss does that. It's like, I have personal experience doing this. I know how to do it.
Kojima taking the supernatural out of MGS was a part of the huge middle finger to the fan base that was Metal Gear Solid 4. We actually got robbed. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Psycho Mantis as an example.
I enjoy some of it,
also-
but I don't want to go. I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole. Is the thing.
You don't want to have a character call out the most recent game reuse the person streamed.
Well, and this is why I say the Bard is a little bit magical, but it is also known as one of the half magical classes. So it does not get a lot of spells, it doesn't get a lot of magical abilities. It's much more focused on the practical performance of things.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
And also on top of that, we're already talking about him being a little bit older. Maybe he has a flair for the dramatic with his fire, right?
Oh yeah, Vi, I know specifically what you're referring to in regards to the Ocelot and the supernatural thing.
Mm-hmm.
That I am annoyed that they did change. I liked the original idea for it first.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a little different than what we're discussing right now.
Right.
But no, the Bard for the work could work from the sounds of it.
Right. That's another D8 hit die, so it's not super healthy. It's not super frail either. Again, right?
Yeah. Well, the fact that they're older, they wouldn't have as much hit points either, right?
Exactly. So we could even say they roll 6s instead of 8s on it. You know?
Sounds good.
Um.
Oh, Tactical brings up the weakness right away is the tank on the back, so we can put that in.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. And considering he's germaphobe, obviously there would be probably. So here's the thing, right? We're already talking about germaphobe. That means his fortitude's going to be compromised, also.
Yeah.
So I know there's a drawback called I think it's called sickly, where it just literally knocks your fortitude for a point or two.
Seriously, Metal Gear, do your tabletop shenanigans have no end? No, Alex, they have no end. None!
No,
Next thing you know, I'll make a Senran Kagura game. No, Blaze won't let me.
I know, right?
That would probably have to be Patreon exclusive.
Did
I get you with a spit take?
Except I didn't have anything in my mouth.
but I did get you to do the motion of it.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, no, but realistically, the thing is, like, even then, talking about this flame dancer setup, it also replaces a lot of the song and, you know, suggestion and all of that, right? It takes away a lot of that magical manipulation of things that bards do anyways. So, so it plays directly into the fire.
Okay.
Right. So, Fire Dancer, Song of the Fiery Gaze, which is basically lets you see through fire without distortion, so he's not going to be blinded by his own flames.
What's next? The Simpsons TTRPG? Maybe.
Anyways.
I have never actually watched an episode of The Simpsons before.
I am thoroughly impressed by that statement.
Really? So am I.
considering how many seasons there are, I am thoroughly impressed by that statement.
Well, excuse me.
I'll take that.
Okay.
Okay. So, considering all of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's part one. This then goes on. This is where we start now having a little bit more difficulty with things because, how does one train to use a flamethrower, right?
Well, they would need a weapon specialization.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because this is definitely would be considered an exotic weapon.
Yeah, the weapon proficiency I just taught you about and all that.
Alright. Let's see. So, the weapon proficiency for sure.
flamethrower.
Give me the flamethrower, brother. No, the heavy flamethrower.
Brother, bring me the flamer. The heavy flamer.
I would like to file a complaint.
Okay.
Pop culture references.
So the question is, since you do want him to be a like a fire specialist,
Yeah.
this is where we start looking into less of the straight up feats, like direct combat, direct socials, right?
Yeah.
This is where you start looking into feats that specifically look for like elemental stuff, right?
Okay.
So I'm trying to think of it specifically, right? And the problem is that so many of them rely on the concept of magic that we really need to start now talking about how he fights using a flamethrower, other than just sweeping, right?
I could see him trying to hit Ryu, blocking off the entrances and exits. But also because of the fact that he would know he has the air tank on and that he's airlocked the room, looking for anything combustible that he could set on fire to constantly keep burning out the air.
Okay. Okay.
His goal most likely would not be to kill, but to render our protagonist unconscious.
I'm trying to think.
Pretty tank handles flamethrower with ease. He's has weakness on his back where the gas comes from. Yes, we do have the gas tank on the back being the weakness.
Yes, we have that listed down. I'm just trying to think of
what kind of traits we can give him or feats.
Right, and that this is where
we might not necessarily have to give him any.
I don't think it's I don't think it's the idea that we don't give him feats. I don't think we give him feats specifically related to fire. I think
more about surviving.
Here's the weird thing. I think
no, the flamethrower itself is not going to knock him out. The room is going to be airtight sealed, and the fire is going to eat up the oxygen, causing Ryu to pass out from lack of air. That's the idea.
So I guess
I think the thing that he would the way you would probably do this is go about is ranger traps is my thought.
Okay. But if Ryu loses the fight, then he gets captured. And then we go from there as if he was captured.
Mm-hmm. So the idea is that with ranger traps, he probably had pre-trapped a lot of this air sealed area.
Mm-hmm.
like what I was mentioning, like with the detonation of the
Yeah,
napalm
because
wires.
that plays into those wires you were talking about.
And so you would probably give him. So one would obviously be a burning trap, right?
Yeah.
It's like a burning trap. You would probably then have. I'm trying to think. I'm really trying to think of this, right? Because this would directly affect things, right? Obviously a tripwire I think would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like the tripwire.
Yeah, using the flames as area control denial feels good in that context. Funnel Ryu into the traps when he dodges the flames. Exactly.
Exactly. And then okay, I will say this. This is one of my favorite ones that you could be very dirty with as the DM.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the tar trap.
Ooh, with fire?
So how the tar trap works is that the target is when they activate the trap, they are coated in a layer of sticky tar unless they, succeed at a reflex save, right? When they are tarred, they become entangled and take double fire damage.
Perfect.
Right? But once they take that double fire damage for that one attack, it's burned off, they're no longer entangled. Like I said, I think that's a little dirty, but it's also very on flavor with how this guy would want to set him up for a situation where it's supposed to be a no escape.
Honestly, that's
heading out tactical. Thank you very much for popping in. All right. Now remember, stamina is going to be 20% less of the max HP. So let's calculate the stats, and then we'll calculate hit points and then stamina.
So we mentioned to compensate for he's older, he's using 6s for his HP.
Yep.
So that will lower his HP a little bit already.
Yeah, and I think we should give his constitution a lower like either the 10 or the 8. I wouldn't say give him the 8 because I wouldn't say the 8 because he is hauling that tank around.
I was about to say hauling the tank around is more strength, so I would probably give him the 12 in strength. Okay. Right? I would definitely probably give him the 10 in constitution, so he's not super. Like again, we're not trying to make him super healthy because this is going to be a battle of attrition already. It's gonna be hard enough if we make him too healthy.
Exactly.
I think it'd be really funny.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be really funny if we gave him the 15 in charisma and make him like the kind old man until the fire traps start going off. It's like, well, darling,
make him the kind old man, but once the fire ignites, that's when his true self comes out.
No, I just immediately think of like it's the end from Metal Gear Solid 3.
Yes.
It's just like so you've entered into my domain. Would you like a cookie before we get started? I've made them myself. And like on the cookies it says run, and then he's gonna press the trigger and start the fight, and then he's gonna just disappear into the flames.
I don't know about that exactly, but yeah, I like that idea of him being, a decently good older guy. So yeah, let's go with that. We'll give him the 15 in charisma.
Just imagining during the fight.
With the traps, you are interwiz.
Wisdom.
Wisdom? Okay, right, then give him those wisdom.
So that would be 13 of the wisdom. And then I think we still have the 8 and the 12. We have the 8 and the 14 left.
He doesn't need to be super accurate with this thing.
Yeah.
He just needs to pull the trigger. That's basic.
Pretty much. He doesn't need to be accurate. Yeah. He just needs to get in the general area.
And I mean, flamethrowers, the way their stat line would work would be akin to a breath weapon. So the accuracy isn't based on him, it's based on Ryu. Can you reflex save Ryu? No? I guess you're getting hurt. Yeah. And then where would we want to put like the +2 then? Maybe more into wisdom, so it rounds out for that.
Yeah, I think so.
So +1, -1, +0, +2. You have to put apostrophe before it, right? +2, +2. Yeah, there we go. So that means, honestly, he's just throwing sixes. 6 times 6 is 36, right?
Yep. And then 20% less.
That's going to be 29 with rounding up.
Okay. And the weakness on the back, the tank. Let's make it half the health, half of his health.
So 18.
Yep. So if the tank takes 18 points of damage, it'll explode and kill him. But since it's a tank, damage reduced by 2. Any shot to that tank is reduced by 2.
So damage reduction 2. Got it. Okay.
But yeah, if that tank explode, that tank explode, baby.
This would definitely be a character that you would need to set up this map ahead of time to place those traps. And then maybe if you do tabletop sim, you fog of war those areas as he goes through.
I will probably I'll put a bunch of stuff down, and some of it will be dummies, some of it will be actual traps.
Fair enough.
Funny.
All right, I think that's it for our salamander.
Honestly, he seems like he's going to be one of those characters that are going to be absolutely terrifying, just stomping around in the like the flame suit, retardant suit, and just going, I gave you a warning. I told you not to come here. But you know how the young ones are. They never listen. They never listened to us back then. They'll never listen to us now.
Fair enough. All right. I want to save this one for when Faye is free, because Faye wants to jump in on that character. So we're going to skip Orbital Eagle for now, and we're going to jump to our raccoon, which we still haven't come up with the official name for.
Okay, so you said the last codename is Raccoon.
Yeah, so we had Orbital Eagle, which we're going to do once Faye gets here. Then we have Recoil Raccoon, Rabid Raccoon, Rapid Raccoon, and Impact Icarus were the 4 names we came up with.
Ooh.
Okay. So that's one that's a little bit more difficult, because depending on your codename, can really contextually change the character.
Yeah. I don't think Impact Icarus really works, because this is going to be our machine gun boss.
So
I'm thinking, personally, Rapid Raccoon or Rabid Raccoon.
Well, the thing that kind of maybe throws me off is, like, Rapid works, because then you could have another gunner type character, but you also have that already in your shotgunner here, right?
Well, let's go over the details on this character that we have first, and we'll see if this makes a difference. All right. So this character is a former Navy SEAL.
Okay.
They are numb and desensitized to violence and are looking for a feeling in battle to make them feel alive.
Okay.
So basically like thrill seeking.
Xenos, got it.
Hello, Kitsune, welcome.
Hey, Kitsune.
And then what I put in here was former child soldier.
Okay. I'll be really honest.
Mm-hmm.
Just, I don't think machine gunner is the correct way for this character to be played based on what you've done.
Okay.
And hear me out, right? You're talking about a character, personality-wise, right? Maybe they're holding onto the machine gun more as a introduction, right? But that's maybe not their actual fighting style. So you're talking about a former Navy SEAL, that you're seeing someone who's done to violence, someone who's former child. So this is going to be someone who's very used to war, very, very apathetic until they find somebody worth their time, right?
Yeah.
So
and I wanted to have them fighting in the armory is what I have listed here.
Right. So I would think somebody who is clever enough. Here's how I would. This is me visualizing a theoretical progression of the fight, right?
Okay.
He set up in like this nest above the armory, and he knows Snake is approaching, right? So he's using this machine gun nest to keep him suppressed, to see if he can just take care of him, do the mission, whatever. It's someone else who's fodder in the end of the day, right? But as he gets closer, that bloodthirsty need for challenge kind of comes out, right?
Okay.
It was like, okay, he's in the building with me. Okay. So it's not really him being a machine gunner in the true sense. I think he's much more of a CQC style specialist, and maybe more leans into the barbarian-esque rage aspect of his bloodlust getting activated rather than it being anger.
Okay.
That's how I'm kind of visualizing based on the simplified backstory we've been given, right?
Yeah. I was trying to save the CQC for another character, but it could work here.
I was thinking, the reason I'm thinking of the like, and I'm not saying like a CQC as in like a professionally trained kind of CQC, right? Like, there's a difference between someone
more of a melee fighter when the switch gets flipped, rather than someone who's a CQC specialist.
Right. It's the like how we train soldiers now, where they are very clearly meant to be people fighting at range most of the time, right? Like, they're meant to be doing that, but affix bayonets and charge, people pulling out knives, being able to defend yourself if the enemy gets close with your gun, right? Like, this guy probably has that mentality of flicking the switch and pulling a knife out and going, "I'm coming for you," right?
Okay. All right. So let's run with that. Fight me. I would say maybe not have them guarding like up on the nest, because that seems to be more the orbital eagle thing. But maybe orbital eagle could be guarding the building. And then he's waiting inside and watching the security cameras. Right.
So hold on, let me mark that down. Right.
And then we'll have orbital eagles do the second fight. We'll have orbital eagle do a second fight out in the open somewhere else. Or the orbital eagle fight will take place before this fight.
Fun idea.
That could be.
Oops, sorry, you speak.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Fun idea. What if you had the orbital eagle introduction and their conflict of trying to get to them, and once they get into the building, instead of just you have to go through the building to confront them, you then confront Rapid Raccoon. You have to fight through them to then get to orbital eagle.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay.
So like eagle's guarding the building, you get into the building, then you clear Raccoon, and then we have the eagle in a secondary fight elsewhere.
Yeah. That sounds cool.
I like this. I like where we're going with this.
Yeah.
So we'll have him open up with with some guns, but then once he realizes that our snake is what he's looking for, he'll drop the guns and go for close quarter. How's that sound? Uh-oh, did we lose him?
He's muted at the moment.
Sorry, Lorelai need me for a second. I'm sorry.
No worries, you're all good. Did you hear what we were saying or no?
I lost like maybe the last 30 seconds.
Okay, so the idea is Orbital Eagle is going to be guarding from the outside. So Snake makes his way there. Inside, Raccoon will be waiting. Raccoon will open up the fight with like the assault rifles, machine guns first, and then to basically do like a test, just to make sure that this person is actually who they is actually worth their time, and then move in for the close quarter with the knife.
Is there any type of
I just put it
mechanical
underneath this
way?
block. What's up?
I'm wondering, is there any, because they want to do CQC, is there a way to force the player into doing CQC stuff so they just don't go like,
Take out the
finally,
gun.
really challenged? Okay.
Disarm.
Well, one, you can pick up the gun. Two, but I think he's more worried about, let's say, Snake decides to be more of a ranged fighter against him and he's trying to rush him. There is a mechanic in many tabletop games known as Run. Run just says you get to move 4 times your normal movement speed for a turn. So, combine that with a feat known as Swiftness, right? So, like, 1, 2, 3, 4. Say we give him Swiftness. He gets, instead of the 4 times, he gets to move at 5 times, meaning, let's say Snake goes to run from him and he's running just as fast. He's going to catch up. It's kind of that level of inevitability, right?
Oh man, I can't wait to see that clip on stream.
I also recommended Barbarian earlier.
Okay.
Because Barbarians, when they enter their rage state, also get bonus base movement speed.
Let's go, baby.
So for context, right? A normal human moves about 30 feet per turn, right? Barbarians, when enraged, move at 40 base speed per turn. This means the level of inevitability that's here is very high if that happens.
Are you sure that this isn't secretly the end's love child?
This sounds like
it. This sounds like a character that will get you.
My point being with suggesting that those two combinations, right, is purely for the fact that we're talking about making a character who's using the machine gun more as a testing device rather than a pure specialist, because then it's basically like Shrapnel Vulture all over again in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I don't think it'd be fun to have 2 characters with effectively the same build doing with just 2 different weapon types.
Understandable.
That's just my opinion, right?
No, that's perfectly valid, right?
It also
that's fair.
It also makes him incredibly scary because barbarians have D12 hit dice.
Ooh. All right. I think Rapid Raccoon. No, Recoil Raccoon still
Rabid.
sits. Rabid. Ooh, yeah. Let's go with that. Let's go with the Rabid.
So, okay. Taking into account abilities, obviously, flies to do a rage. We kind of understand that he's going to do that. This also means, because of how reflexive barbarians do get, because they get uncanny dodge. Let's see, how far is his uncanny dodge? Yeah, he gets improved, which means throwing grenades are just not gonna work because he's gonna be uh, it's just gonna make it really hard to. So for those who don't know how uncanny dodge works, it literally says, if a barbarian would be, flat-footed, ambushed, struck by an invisible attacker, he doesn't lose his dexterity bonus to his defense, right? And then since that he gets also improved, this also denies the ability to sneak attack him.
Oh. Well, that plays into the fact that that Orbital is going to be passing that info along.
But also the awareness of somebody is in the room with him from being both a former child soldier and a trained Navy SEAL. That plays into that combat awareness of someone's in here that's not supposed to be.
Yep.
So like I said, I think that that plays into that. So just being able to get around a traditional encounter and force him into that combat, right? The question is, what level do you want to make him?
7.
Okay. This is where he gets one extra ability then.
I want to make this one 7 because we have 2 6s, right?
And then passively, as a barbarian, gets damage reduction 1, which means he automatically takes 1 less damage from everything.
Alright.
So he's going to be a hard fight. I will very briefly say that.
I plan on having Ryu probably start at 7 and not level up the entire time.
Yeah, fair. My recommendation for weakness would definitely have to be a weapon somewhere in the area to take him down, right? Or some sort of tech call or something along those lines, right?
High-powered trank. We'll give him there'll be a high-powered trank that will do his full stamina, but you have to hit it and it only has 2 shots. So if he misses once, then he's only got 1 other shot, so he's got to land it. Otherwise, he's got to go through the hard way.
Just to tell you his base HP before we start doing his stats, that's already 84.
Yeah.
Yeah, so high-powered tranks, because he's probably, after all of this, is going to have the same stamina HP as Shrapnel's normal HP, if not higher.
Yeah. If Ryu can pull this off with only 1 shot, that means he has 1 extra high-powered trank for later.
Exactly.
Maybe just in case, if you're really worried about him, maybe just have somewhere in the game where you can find just an RPG where you can just hook him with it.
And see that's where you start getting into that, right?
Yeah, that's a little bit silly.
2 feels like a handout. Well, here's the thing. There's more bosses, and I plan on making some of the last ones harder. And I don't expect this first shot to land, considering he has uncanny dodge.
Uncanny dodge just means he can't be ambushed. That's the thing, right?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. I like the idea of 2 shots, though.
Okay. So then this is where we start. Now we got to figure out feats for him, right?
Okay.
What do you want to give him? Right? Because this is kind of one of those discussions where it's just like, okay.
I want his standardized weapon before he switches over to be the machine gun, to be the assault rifle. Maybe with a single-use grenade launcher attachment.
Okay.
And we can have that grenade be like tear gas or something to prevent our snake from going out the exit.
Right.
What's the explanation for having 2 and not 8? Probably because there was 8 in there originally, and he uses it to get to give himself a some kind of feeling.
Shabba-dabba-da.
So
Man,
he's
this guy's a freak.
using it. He's using it as we could say that he's using it as a drug addiction, but getting the full trank is what puts him under. Because some people get addicted to tranquilizer.
Yeah, they do. And it is a bad thing. And if you're talking about somebody who's dealing with, theoretically, you're talking about a character dealing with perhaps PTSD, nightmares, whatever, and
Child
having
soldier.
this, right? You also have to have them calm enough to be able to be given orders. That could be a reason.
Yeah, so like the case will be mostly empty with only 2 full shots remaining. There we go.
So, okay. Then talking about his other 3 feats, then. Actually 4, because he'd be level 7.
Again, we don't have to give them all the feats if it doesn't fit for the character in this case. Right?
Oh, I know, I agree. One I can think of that makes the whole rage thing much... I don't want to make him too much of a threat, right?
Yeah, because Ryu still needs to be able to win. He needs to be able to win theoretically, right?
Right. So, my theory is to give him the reflex feats, which are Iron Will, Lightning Reflexes, and I think it's called, what is the Great Fortitude, which just makes it where it's harder to take him down in a non-combat direct way.
Okay.
And because he already has a lot of combat abilities directly from his class, I think this would help round out that protection suite that you can't just avoid this battle, right? I think that's just my thought on it.
Okay. So what's Great Fortitude do exactly?
Every character has 3 saves: Fortitude, Reflex, and Will, right? All 3 of those feats add +2 to each of those. So, for example, let's say Snake tries to use a traditional trank round that doesn't deal stamina damage, right? It just puts him to sleep, makes him woozy, puts him off his game, right?
Uses one of the non-high power tranks. Okay.
Right. This would be where he would have to make a Fortitude save under normal conditions, right? And see if there's an effect that affects him, right? Like nausea or, something along those lines, right? Fortitude would protect against that. Will would be like mental manipulations, baiting, direct effects on the mind, right? It would be the way to protect against things like actively being mentally manipulated. If we use the Metal Gear Solid example, technically, having a higher will would have protect us against Psycho Mantis.
Okay.
Right. And then Lightning Reflexes is how well you react, how well all that. So like the reflex saves for fireballs, grenades, stuff like that. Being able to respond to those better.
Okay.
So I think that helped explain why I'm like, okay, maybe just give him these 3 so it's you have to confront him kind of feeling.
I see it. All right, so let's look at the stat spread then.
Right. So then got 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, and 8 as options. Right?
Yeah.
Here's my thought. We're already talking about making the trank a weakness of his, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to make his constitution too high, so maybe make it a 12, so he's able to like shrug it off, but not be immune to it, because that's
I
what
can agree with
constitution directly affects fortitude.
I can agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're talking about making a big, beefy, in-your-face fighter, so 15 makes a lot of sense.
14 for the dexterity because he's close up and personal still.
Mm-hmm.
And he is going to be using the rifle. He's going to be using the rifle at the beginning as well, so the 14 makes sense there.
Yep.
I don't want to put charisma as 8 again.
I'm gonna bet, even considering he's probably like he's obviously doping of some sort, right? I don't think it's his charisma being low is a bad thing, but also I don't think necessarily it's a matter of him being aware of his surroundings in a lot of senses, right? I think more of the idea, I think wisdom being 8 represents him not being aware of the context of his environment.
I can agree with that. And then we give him the 10 in charisma.
Mm-hmm. Like, he probably is like aware of like what he's doing, but he's not aware of necessarily the context or the greater ploy at hand with him. He just knows he's involved and he's there to do stuff. I think that's the best way to run a character who's kind of flipping this from being a former Navy SEAL and having to recover.
Yeah. Yep. Now, everybody obviously in this team, everyone obviously here is part of this Spec Ops team that we've got, right?
Mm. Yep.
So they're all part of. And I said this on the last stream. We are naming the Spec Ops team that they're all part of Stigmata.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's go ahead, calculate his bonuses, and then do his HP and stamina. So I'll align these while you type these in.
I don't wanna give him the +2 in any of his stats because he's gonna be a scary fight already.
Yeah, I don't think he needs the +2 in any of the stats, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think he's going to be already a very, very big problem.
Yeah.
Because it does play. He is very much a character that is counterproductive to the natural MGS style, but not necessarily to a point where he's not undefeatable.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, because I'm just like, from what I've been hearing about this guy, it feels like that we want to design him in a way where he's an absolute tank, but in a way, designing a character like that is counterproductive. What if the point of the fight isn't you can't fight him in like a traditional sense? You have to find some way to subvert the fights.
Yeah, that's the weakness gun. That's the high power trank.
That's the point of the high power trank. Let's theoretically as a test, right? If this became too much of a problem, an extra weakness could be added later, right?
Yeah. Like maybe he takes a couple shots too many and like a knee and it throws it off his balance. Right?
Right. I mean, even me looking at this, right? He's a level 7 character, right? He already has 91 HP with a stamina requirement of 73, right? That is... But see, the thing is, he is going to be a pure... In a lot of ways, this is going to be more of a brawler-esque character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, we have a character who is very much going to be in control of the map, but has significantly lower HP. It's not to say that there aren't creative ways to engage with Rabid Raccoon as we've suggested here, but he's also going to be a character who's going to be a lot more resilient to a lot of that manipulation. Does that make more sense?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And theoretically, right, more information about each of these characters could be acquired early, which would allow time for Snake to prepare ahead of time for this.
Okay.
Right. Because, like, you could see, like, oh man, they have a shotgun specialist who specializes in breaching and close range battle. They have Orbital Eagle who does this thing. They have Inferno Salamander. What's this guy do? And it just has, like, a lot of redacted files going with, like, atrocities attributed to his name and no other context, like, no weapons listed, no skills listed, just lists of atrocities and why we hired him. I'd be like, oh, I gotta be careful with this guy.
Yeah.
We hired him because he's a problem.
Right.
Well,
and
the Spec Ops team is called Stigmata for a reason.
Oh, I get it. You're clever.
Alright. Well, while we're waiting for Faye, for our orbital, why don't we start designing the Rex of our game?
Cool. So I'm just gonna make this center block and double white it just for this purposes of this, right?
Sounds good.
Because-
I'm scrolling down for that.
Not what I wanted. I wanted just the left side. There we go.
Because
Fill
we
those in
got
real quick.
Orbital Eagle, we have Character X, and we have Character Y, and now we have our Metal Gear. So we're going to design our Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
And
Metal Gear.
chat. This is where you guys get to shine. This is where you get to shine. I have already come up with some basic ideas, and I've told Sagrel some of the basic ideas. Sagrel, put X for the cockpit, please.
X.
Yeah, put cockpit X, because you and I know what that is.
Yep. Done.
All right. Design spec is based off of the Rex. So the look and feel of this unit is going to be similar to Metal Gear Rex.
So this is where one of my specialties come out.
And chat specialty comes out.
Yes. But I want to bring up the reason why I say one of my specialties. For a almost 3 year period, I ran with a system known as Mecha D20. Mecha D20 is entirely based around making super powerful mechas in a D20 space. And I've gotten very good at making these weapons and armor.
How good we talking?
We're gonna
Let me ask you
destroy
this.
Ryu.
Have you played Earth Defense Force 5? Or seen the Russian Badger video on it?
I have seen the Russian Badger.
Do you remember AoE Yes?
Yes.
I can make that weapon in this.
That's incredible. Do we
Earth
want to throw
Defense
that
Force, you
against
say?
the player?
Yeah.
EDF?
EDF.
Let's kill us some bugs.
We're protecting the planet. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're protecting the people who need to live on the planet.
Connor,
The thing
Connor.
is that
Welcome to
almost
Earth.
any, and just for context, almost using Mecha D20 and obviously flavor and discussion, right? You can make theoretically any weapons platform, vehicle, mech suit, nanobot tech, whatever you want to call it, using the system. I'm very good at this.
All right, so there are some hard things that need to be put on this unit. Obviously, it needs to be bipedal, because that's the whole point of Metal
Easy.
Gears. They're bipedal, right? Because they're bipedal mobile missile platforms.
Yep.
And since this one is based off of the Rex, it needs to have a rail cannon to fire those missiles, which means that rail gun on one of the arms cannot be used for close range practical combat.
So it will be a hard-pointed weapon, as it's known as.
Yeah.
If those who don't know what a hardpoint is, it means instead of it being a handheld weapon like a Gundam, it is what would replace an arm, in a sense, as a hard fixed thing much like a turret on a battleship.
Huh.
Sagro, I'm assuming you are familiar with Rex's design schematics roughly, yes?
I'm aware of Rex's appearance, not so much the schematics.
Okay. Rex has Vulcans. It has a radar dome. It has a laser that is designed for eliminating close range, and it has incredibly high-powered hydraulics in the legs, so it can walk around. And the quote-unquote toes are also pile bunkers.
That shit got toes?
Yeah.
Yeah, it has toes.
Those are pile bunkers, which are designed to either A, penetrate into the ground to take out targets, or B, penetrate into the ground to hold it in place while it launches.
Mm-hmm.
It also has a missile pack on the back for obvious reasons.
I mean, it's a mobile missile platform.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Open image.
So
in new tab.
those are the standard array that was on Rex. That being said, we could add more, we could subtract more, we can fiddle around with stuff, but the rail cannon is kind of a requirement, and the basic design needs to look similar because this is taking place after Shadow Moses, so Ocelot leaked these plans internationally.
Okay, can you see the image I put into the
Yes.
document? Okay, cool. So looking here, right? Obviously, rail cannon. So this would be considered an armless mech. Okay.
Yes.
For the system, so armless. So all weapons and gear would be hard pointed on. Obviously, I can see the radar dome. It probably has.
Now, that being said, we can fiddle and tune around with this, but the railgun is a hard requirement because that's the whole point of the machine. Because the whole point of it is to use that railgun to launch those nukes.
All right. Is everything I've written down so far correct?
Missile barrage, pile bunker, feet, jumping skill, radar setup, high-powered laser. There was Vulcan cannons. There's Vulcans.
Okay.
That's what the standard was on this unit. Like, on the actual Rex. Now, we don't have to use all of this. That's just what was there. The bipedal part, I don't think we need to worry about the jumping, because I imagine this thing is probably way too heavy to jump, realistically.
I don't think it is.
But I could definitely
Actually-
see it doing some crushing, that's for sure.
Hold on.
How much did Rex weigh?
I'm actually literally pulling up the Metal Gear Rex wiki real quick to see if I can find the. 13 meters high, 15 meters long, 11.5 meters. Nuclear armament. Let's see, any other details? Considering it's lighter than the.
Two X-33 millimeter rotary cannons, the anti-tank missiles, and the free electron laser.
505 tons.
If it's got the hydraulics, it might be able to jump.
It wouldn't be able to do like massive armored core level jumps, but it could jump.
I would be real. If I saw something that moved like an Armored Core or like from Armored Core 6 IRL, I would have a panic attack. That shit's scary if it moved like that.
To give you context, that has the same classification of like displacement, full loaded as a Zuber class hover vehicle from the Soviet designed air cushion landing crafts. So it is the weight of a small carrier ship.
Jeez.
So realistically, this thing probably could jump decently well, given the hydraulic system that I'm seeing based on the structure.
I know
And
Ray could jump around easily. I never imagined Rex could, because you never really saw that.
I'm thinking because Ray was built with much lighter materials compared to Rex is part of the reason why you saw it being a little more aerobatic. I'm pretty sure Rex could jump if necessary, but it would definitely be like a heavy. They jump up, they land, they stabilize, and then they get going, right?
Yeah. Okay. So it'd be like the 200-ton jumping smash, stabilize, move.
Right. It'd be like dropping in a tank from the air, to having the crew take a moment to like get ready, and then orient and get going. Right. It would be like the really heavy armored cores, dropping in hard, and then like having that
The ultra heavy armored core
stun.
landing without any jets.
Right.
Just think of it has to do superhero landing every time when it does so.
It has no arm to do the superhero landing.
I was about to say,
yes, but
you
it gotta stick to pose.
That rail cannon is getting bent and no.
It always has to at least stick a pose though. That's why it pauses.
All right. Let's see what kind of weaponry we can give this thing aside from the rail cannon, obviously.
Right.
I would say super
barrage,
heavy,
obviously.
not heavy, super heavy. That thing is a ton.
Right. Yeah, realistically, we're talking the missile barrage, rail cannon. We have the pile bunkers in the feet. We have the high-powered laser, the Vulcan cannons. Looking over the schematics of it more, right? Because I'm pulling it, like I said, I pulled up the Metal Gear wiki to actually look at what it has.
Yeah.
The standard armament, and not counting the nuclear armament, right?
Yeah. Because the nuclear armament is just warheads that are getting launched out of that gun.
Right. Which we already have that covered, right? We have the laser, the Vulcan cannon, the missile barrage, and the rail gun, right? Standard array already acquired. That being said, considering we were just talking about it being the size of a small warship, this theoretically means you could take on most battleship parts, as long as you modify the loading mechanisms. So theoretically, right, you could say, I'm going to put a theoretically section.
Okay.
You could put on a battleship armament. So that means like one of the triple cannons from like the Bismarck or something like that, right?
Okay.
You could then, at that point, that also means you could take on any of the American, Gauss rifles that have been coming out at the time.
Okay. Now remember, this is going to be taking place. There was 2 years between Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, so let me double check the year.
1984 is what I'm seeing here for Rex.
No.
2005 was Shadow of Moses.
2005, so it'd be the weapons on this thing would have to be between 2005 and 2006. Because
so Gauss rifles would be qualified.
Yeah, just nothing later than 2006, because we would not be part of the U.S. military per se to have anything beyond some of the stuff I'm planning. And this is also not set in the U.S., so we wouldn't have full access to like DARPA or something.
Oh well, that's what I'm saying. Like the Gauss rifle technology was found in like 2004, so it'd be experimental tech at this point.
Okay.
You could use the FX-05G Codals, which were assault rifles that were assault rifles that were done in Mexico.
That
Trying to think of
sounds-
other.
Is there anything else that we
I'm-
could pull from Central America or Africa that we could possibly use?
That's what I'm trying to think of, right? Because there's also the okay.
And I have my reasons, chat.
Hmm. I'm trying to think of what other armaments that would have been at that time, right? Because we're not talking just guns and ammunition. We're talking full-on armaments at this scale.
Yeah. Now, with it being a Metal Gear launch and the nukes, that's all well and good, but we would need a little bit of anti-air and a little bit of anti-personnel.
Mm-hmm. And see, that's where I'm trying to think of, like, I'm trying to think of the equipment of the Lebanon War, which was a 2006 short-term encounter between the Hezbollah and Israel, right?
Okay.
I'm trying to think of specifically, like, equipment-wise, right?
We could also probably pull some stuff from Operation Desert Storm.
Desert Storm would be a good example too, right?
I don't want to put chemical weapons because chemical weapons are gross.
Chemical weapons are scary and against the Geneva suggestions.
Yeah, I don't think they fit this idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think they would fit this very well because considering what you're trying to set up, right?
Yeah. I do like the Gauss rifle, so let's go with that. Let's go with the Gauss rifles.
Rifle's a good, which is, which my favorite. Okay, I will say this. My favorite thing about how Gauss rifles are classified is that they are a type of shell that does purely concussive explosions rather than shrapnel-based explosions.
Okay, so let's go with that. This one was a relatively new one that started towards the end of Desert Storm. But I'd like to throw some electronic warfare in there.
ECW?
Yeah.
That could work. I was thinking of the Merc. I was thinking of the,
Not necessarily something that would be useful against a one-man sneak infiltration mission, but it would be something that would be useful overall, right?
Right. It's something that would be very useful in a generalized sense, especially if you were talking and making this a main weapons platform, which, I mean, come on.
That's the whole point of this, right?
Right. The other thing I could think about is maybe if we're talking about this being more of a long-range variant, you could probably talk about using the M109, which is a turret self-propelled howitzer. Right.
I don't think it needs to worry too much about that because that railgun can count for any kind of long range.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'm also thinking out loud, right?
Yeah, I think what we need to focus on, aside from the ECW and the railgun, because the ECW will help with anything trying to get too close for for anything electronic, and the railgun for any long range targets. We should be focusing the rest of the artillery on this thing for close range combat. For anything that can get in and try to disable this thing that's not affected by the ECW.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, then perhaps because you were talking about wanting to use the Central American thing, the FX05 Juicatl is actually probably a very good reference there then.
Okay, let's grab it.
Because it is specifically used by the Mexican Armed Forces and was introduced in 2006 by the Special Forces Air Mobile Group GAF.
All right.
Right.
Now, since we are a little bit before that, we could be having an experimental version.
Correct. It is a I'm trying to remember. It uses, by the way, really funny. It is a gas operated rotating bolt 56 45 millimeter NATO cartridge. So and it can use box magazines, so you could theoretically do belt fed with it too.
We could put that in. We could put that in the head.
Yep, and it would be up to a max of 850 rounds per minute.
All right, so let's slap that on there. We don't need the battleship armaments with that. We could probably replace the Vulcans with that. I think that would be better than the Vulcan.
The thing is about the Recodal here is that it is a personnel style rifle, so you could definitely scale it up. Right.
Oh, okay. Then we should have the Vulcans for if like a tank gets too close.
Right. So like this would be your anti-personnel versus your anti-tank.
Okay, sounds good.
I wonder what. So Twitch chat, how you guys liking the conversation about this?
You know, part of me wonders how much in-depth stuff the creators for this system went, and I wonder how many government officers just took a look at it's like, seems like a fun game.
Here's the thing. There's been a lot of discussion ever since Solid about the practicality of using a railgun to launch a nuke, and the only problem that they came up with it was it would be even less stealthy than an ICBM.
Oh yeah.
Because an ICBM uses propellant, which is a set amount of heat that comes off of the thing as it moves. Firing it from a railgun creates such a large plasma blast that you can see it. You would be able to see it from orbit.
Mm-hmm. I think the only thing I would add on to that,
but Metal Gear has magic railguns.
Well, one, yes, it has magic railguns. Two, the bomb that it would be firing by the logistics of the Metal Gear Rex, it would be akin to the Moab bombs.
It feels like if you're fired by a railgun, it's more of a statement than anything.
A statement of "fuck you" in particular. Boom.
Fuck you and let everyone know about it.
For context, if you don't know what the Moab bomb is, it stands for Massive Ordnance Air Blast, right?
Yeah.
And some people call it the Mother of All Bombs. It uses hydrogen 6.
That explains the explosive yield.
About 46 gigajoules or 11 tons of TNT.
That's almost as much power as your hugs for Lorelai.
No, and the worst part about this is that it's not meant to be a penetration. It's not meant to be a penetration bomb. It's meant to be an airburst bomb for destroying things like caves and canyons. No, the Moab. Caves, canyons, military bases, personnel.
Yeah.
It's not meant for cratering. Yeah.
All right. Well, Sagrel, this is your time to shine. Back this baby out. Let's move the picture off. Let's move the picture off to the side here.
We'll move it off to the side over there. Okay. Well, yeah, move it over here, scoot it over. Okay. So this is where we start speccing out, right? We end up using what are called mecha points in the Mecha D20 stuff. I tend to do about 400, right?
Okay.
400 lets you buy hit points, occupants, cargo, all the good stuff, right?
Okay.
So this then becomes, how do we want to build this, right? So we build it out by type, and we already know what type it is, so it doesn't matter. Class doesn't matter. Size by Pathfinder terms, Pathfinder D&D terms. This guy's colossal.
I kind of figured that would be the case.
Right. And this already gives you a base amount of hit points and everything, right? Hit points, occupants, right? This is not. It doesn't really matter, right? Armor, which is how much damage reduction it has, and then defense, which is actually armor class in this case. Which armor class only applies to things of the same size, because that's what it's meant for. So since we're not going to have a Rex versus Ray battle, I don't think having defense matters in this case, right?
No, probably not.
Strength, this is generally for how strong it is to break something down, but like it's not. I don't think it's really that applicable here. You know?
Yeah.
Land speed. This is one that needs to be answered, right? How fast is it? Land speed, air speed, etc. Right? How fast is it?
Let's see.
Yeah, handling, by the way, is basically initiative, so I'm going to write it out as initiative. And then from there, it's special abilities and exotic abilities.
Okay, the maximum road speed for the Rex is 140.7 repeating kilometers per hour.
So that is about 90 miles an hour.
Right, American
That
map.
is... No. The reason I have to look that up is because the fact is I have to translate it. You know?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Does it have any defects? We'll have to have that listed, right? And then the weaponry.
The defects we are not going to show on stream.
Of course not. Right? Yeah. So having done all the basic setup for this, right? There's like one advantage to being like this thing has as a colossal. I will say this just bluntly, right? It's starting at -8 initiative.
Fair?
Just, I mean, it big. It's gonna go last, basically.
I got full specs for this thing. Do you want to know its power to weight ratio?
Sure.
450 horsepower per ton.
Oh my god. Do you know how ridiculous that is?
That's fucking ridiculous.
No. Do you want to know how ridiculous that is?
Hit me.
Okay. The fastest car in the world, the Bugatti Chiron Supersport 300, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least consider the fastest car in the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to know its horsepower?
Per ton?
Its horsepower is 1,578, right?
Okay.
It has 2 tons of weight. The reason why I'm saying this as why this is ridiculous is because you're telling me this thing is almost matching the fastest vehicle in the world at over 100 times its scale.
That's what it says for power to weight, not speed to weight, but power to weight. Yes.
No. I am talking about power. This is why I'm like, you're telling me it's matching a Bugatti in power to weight ratio.
Oh, you said the Bugatti was over 1,000, right? For its
it's 1,500. It's 1,500, so about 750. Now, understand, this is not a 2006 car. But considering modern day tech at this point, if the Rex was made today, oh my god. Do you understand why I'm like, are you kidding me?
And the Rex weighs 505.45 thousand kilos.
Yeah. No. That's why I was just like, I'm looking at you and going, excuse me? It has this much per... What?
Yeah, it has a ton of torque.
Because, like, if I look at the fastest car in 2006, right?
Okay.
Was the Bugatti Veyron 16.4, right? And looking at its horsepower, it's barely 1,200, right? Looking up its weight, it is almost 2.5 tons. It is matching a top-level sports vehicle pretty reliably.
That's like my Rex.
It's already insane as is.
All right.
Okay. Moving on forward, right? HP, it starts already with a base HP of 100. We can add on to that using points. Right?
Okay.
So as of right now, just understand it is comparable to Rabid Raccoon. For HP purely. This can be fixed, obviously.
This is going to be fixed, obviously.
Right. This is why I am... This is why I'm going through it part by part to set up the base, right?
Yep.
So now it's just a destroyer warship is expected to be about 150 HP, but it's expecting also have damage reduction of 30. Right?
Okay.
So this means in order for it to be relatively comparable to a destroyer battleship, it would have to have 50 more HP, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 150.
So setting it to 150, right, will take us 100 points down. Okay?
Okay.
Fine. Damage reduction. 5 points per armor. So giving it 30 points of damage reduction is 150 points.
It is laminate steel hybrid.
We can get to that part later.
No, I'm bringing that up. Would that be the appropriate for 30?
So the thing is about that is that 30 is damage reduction, right? This is purely the damage reduction part. This is not any of the special attributes of it being laminate or something like that, right? So just take that as a grain of salt, right? Okay. It does mean that any attempts to take this thing down by a normal player level character is gonna be hard.
Makes sense.
So it will mean specialized equipment, weak points, defect abuse, etc., right? I want to make that clear because it is a scary situation, right? And defects do give us points back, so we can technically go over budget with this, and then later on talk about defects to balance it out, right?
Okay.
Okay. Speed. You said it's about what, 140?
140 kilometers.
Just doing some quick math for it. That's going to cost us 50.
Okay.
So land speed's going to be 140 kp 8 max. Right? Alright. And then any other special speeds we can figure out later, such as water, etc. But I don't think really that matters. Handling. Do we want to improve its initiative, basically?
No.
No? I mean, we're good then. At this point, we're talking special abilities and stuff like that. So when they say special abilities and exotic abilities here, it's referencing the D20 and Besom series books of how they divide it, right? In the case of special abilities, it's typically your traditional technological options, right? Whereas exotic abilities are a little bit more high sci-fi, right? An example would be like, hey, we're talking about like remote control or firing ports or stuff like that, right? For special. But merging and AI and force fields being more on the exotic side, right?
Okay.
So,
well, we gotta include Cockpit X in there then.
Include what?
Cockpit X.
Right. So I already have that marked down over here. That's actually not going to cost us points.
Okay.
Because having a cockpit or not having a cockpit doesn't matter, right? You immediately mentioned that it had laminate armor.
Mm-hmm.
So that is also called Chobham armor. And that's actually what's called listed here, right? Which anyone who doesn't know what Chobham armor does, in most parts, it is specifically designed to stop shape-charged armor-penetrating attacks, like the heat rounds of tanks or anti-tank missiles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mechanically here, it doubles the effect of armor. So that armor versus those like heat rounds would be treated as 60 instead of 30. That kind of nutty, right?
Okay.
Just kind of going down the line, right? Okay, does it have a booster? I don't think so. Right? Does the Metal Gear have a booster?
I don't think so. No.
I'm taking no.
It don't. No, it wouldn't.
Right. So there's no
The
booster.
Ray might, but Rex definitely would not.
Right. Communications, obviously it should have a long range radio, right?
Yep.
Let's see. Tactical radio is not really an option here because it's the ultra high frequencies that can be that could be very easily intercepted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, going down. Electronic countermeasures. ECM.
Yeah, we did talk about that.
The question is, how hard do you want to make the ECM is the question.
It's 2004, so 2004, 2005. I would say medium, not high end, but definitely not low tier.
Okay, so 3, I'll be honest, because of how skills and abilities and access would be at this point, 3 is a good point, because at 9, you're expecting a very high-level character to attempt this.
Okay, so then 3 is fine.
Right, that's... Mm-hmm. So, from there, we have environmental systems? Does it have climate control in the cockpit?
No.
No? So don't gotta worry about anything else then. Actually, question, does it have chemical filters or life support?
1 second. There.
Okay. Yeah, no.
So yeah,
That
I don't
would
think
be-
climate control would be a thing we would have to worry too much about.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Let's see. We already have armor type. We have no armors. Firing ports would only matter if you had passengers, but you don't. It itself does not have a hangar. Headlights or searchlights?
I would imagine it would have one.
So it would have headlights at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I mentioned it, but we were talking about the jumping, right?
Yeah.
And just giving it jumping 1, so it has that. At least it has obviously the ability to do it, but not significantly, right?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Right. Because it has the power to do it. It has the power to do it. Looking over the specs that we have listed here, it does look like it has laser guided missiles. So this would have a laser designator listed in it.
Okay.
You see what I mean? Where like some of this is like the very realistic stuff, right? Navigation aids, reflective coating. Those are rooms for like very like literal like ships. Any sensors that you can think of outside of like your basic radar?
Outside the radar dome, I want to say it would probably have like regular cameras, maybe an infrared.
Radar. So it would have optics, radar, and IR. Got it.
Yeah, I think that would be the best.
Okay, and that means like I said, I'm going through all of this, right?
Nope, it makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, so that's gonna knock off another 10 points total. Cool. Obviously, I don't think it really has stealth.
Definitely not.
Let's see. Ballistics computer. Ballistic computer +3 because, I mean... There we go. Now we're at the exotic abilities, and this is the stuff where we get to be like, okay, how Kojima are we making it?
Well, we already have X.
Right. I do know there is going to be an exotic ability listed as X here, so so that way I can make sure. See, doesn't have invisibility, would not have force fields last I knew.
Nope.
Right. Obviously doesn't merge with the ray like in some sort of toxic yaoi situation. It doesn't regen or self-repair.
Nope, and nope.
It's not summonable by like a fucking magic key or a whistling tiger sword.
Nope, and nope.
You're welcome, honey.
I summoned the Metal Gear Rex Lord.
Anyways, it doesn't transform.
Nope.
The only thing I think would be listed would be super equipment, and this is basically the
railgun.
I don't have an. No. So this is the non-weapon. I don't have a defined thing in the book category.
Ah. Right? For that, okay.
Yeah, so that's where it comes up, right? Where you may have a super equipment that's just like, I have the ability to teleport through space-time, right?
No, I don't think it really has anything like that.
So, or it has, other things like that. So this is where I was like, okay, maybe there's not a whole lot of exotic abilities, right?
Yeah,
but
no, the biggest exotic ability is X, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Then there you go. After that is defects, but that's not. I'm just gonna do this real quick and just. There we go.
Defects redacted.
Just have them redacted for now, right? After this is just designing weapons, which, this is where weapon. I'll design one weapon for now, just to kind of show you how it scales up in insanity.
Okay.
But we can. I would suggest not putting all the weapons on stream. Hint, hint.
Yep, agreed.
Okay, so starting this off, let's talk about we'll use the iconic rail cannon as our base, right?
Yeah, let's do the railgun for now.
Right. Obviously, it's hard pointed on, so we understand what's going to go on with that, right? So this is what we have to start with, because way weapons work in this game is you have to start off by choosing what damage dice is it throwing and how many of them.
This is a railgun designed to fire nuclear warheads to any location on the planet.
Uh-huh.
So it's designed to launch a nuclear payload.
So what dice does it throw?
I would say this probably throws a couple D100s.
Cool.
If we're counting the nukes only. If we're counting if it's firing a standard ballistic shell, I would say it would probably roll multiple D20s.
Okay, so let me give you a safer thing and say, let's say 5 D10s, right, for the basic ballistic shell, right?
Okay.
So 5 D10. This makes that base weapon cost already 55. Right? This is where it gets a little. This is where the nuttiness starts, right? Okay.
Okay.
It's armor penetrating, right?
Yeah.
It's not automatic, right?
No.
But does it explode when it hits?
It's a nuclear warhead.
We're talking the base ballistic shell.
Oh, then probably not.
Okay.
If it's a base ballistic shell, then no.
Alrighty. So obviously it's not leaving like a burning field behind. It's not concealed, obviously. It doesn't attack in just a cone shape.
No.
It's not a radiating spot. It's not EMP, right?
No, and nope. It's just pure kinetics, baby.
Yep, it's pure kinetics, right? It's hard pointed, which is one of the things reason I brought this up. Hard pointed is considered a defect. That will be important in a little bit.
Okay.
Does it have increased critical threat?
I don't think it would.
So it only crits on the D20.
It only crits on the D20. Now, obviously, firing the nuke itself is going to be more of the problem than firing the ballistic from it. because that's not what this railgun is designed for. It's not designed for ballistics.
Right. I'm using the ballistic base to show you the insanity here, because to use the nuclear version, there'd be a lot of revealed information.
Yeah. So, okay. So no, it wouldn't explode or anything like that, or
right. So okay. So does the ballistic shell have increased critical damage?
Given the speed it's traveling at, yes, I would say it has increased critical damage.
Times 3 or times 4 increase?
Times 3, I think.
Okay. So that would be increased crit damage 1. All right. Obviously, it's not invisible, right?
Nope, definitely not.
Which means it reveals the position of the shooter when it's fired, obviously.
Yeah.
It's obviously long range, right?
Part of me wants to keep the quote-unquote invisibility of the original Metal Gear, but part of me also doesn't.
Right.
Because the whole point of this was to be able to launch the missile from anywhere undetected.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm going through a little bit more. Does it have unlimited ammo?
Definitely not.
Okay.
Are you sure you just don't want to throw a headband on it?
Now, here's part 1 of how to calculate a weapon for this. So that 55 base, for every category of a special effect we put on it, it's a 0.5 additional multiplier. So with those 3 categories on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That would be 2.5. Resulting in currently, for downsides, a 137.5 point weapon. Kind of. Now, here's where the next part comes in, right? We already have it hard pointed, so there's 1. Fixed arc of fire, which must mean it must be aimed by pointing the mecha. Which,
yeah, it does not have a real lot of range if you look at the picture there.
Yep. So it would be considered a front arc fire, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does it have less ammo, as in it has only a restricted number of shots that it can carry at once?
I would say yes, because I believe it's limited to 8 on the back.
Okay, cool. Actually, then that's perfect. That is so less ammo too, because it says specifically limiting it twice limits it to about between 5 and 8 shots. Right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has a maximum capacity of 8 on the back.
Okay. So, question is, would it be treated as a slow firing, such as a full round action to fire it?
The railgun, yes.
Yeah, we're talking purely the railgun right now and the ballistic ammo.
Yep, no, that would definitely take a full round action for sure to fire.
Can it be fired while the mech is moving?
With Rex, I want to say no.
So it has to be static.
I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay, so with that in mind now we count the defects like we did the bonuses, right?
Okay.
So the fixed arc of fire, 2 ammo, hard point, and slow firing would be 2. So we divide the number that we have by the total here.
All right, I'm back.
So that would be divided by 3.5. And the actual weapon's total value comes out to 39 points.
Nice.
So now you have this rail cannon built for 39 points that deals 5d10. But we now have to keep track of all of this, right? For the rail cannon from now on, right?
All right.
But it lets you know that you have designed the weapon completely. There's the qualities on it. And you basically have a incredibly powerful ballistics weapon. And because I didn't actually do the range calculation for you at the beginning, like I thought I did. So the system also says you combine all the ranges for the dice listed. So since we did 5d10, that is 15 meters per die base, right? So that becomes 75 meters, and then it's long range, so that becomes 150 meters range. And that is at its short range, by the way.
Okay, I was about to say.
Because the way ranges go is it goes short is 150, medium is 300, and then long is was it 4 or 5 times? 5.
We're gonna need to spend some points and bump up that long range, baby.
But that's kind of the thing, right? But this was for and now understand, the 400 points is a level 1 mech. It's not meant to really be upgraded over time. It's meant to design for someone to start a mech finder game with, right?
Yeah.
It's meant for people to really build something that has a good base and then move on and then upgrade from there, right? So this was assuming with a little bit of fudging, right? Because some of this is just not feasible under 400 points. This would be a base version of Ray for a brand new character to Mech Finder.
Rex, you mean? But yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Rex. I'm sorry. My mistake.
Good.
The idea is, like, so take this as a base, right? There's still more we need to add to it to make it truly Metal Gear, but that was a very basic creation of a mech using Mecha D20.
Indeed.
Now, could we have gotten points back if we actually showed you guys what defects we're talking about? Yes. Could we have made more weapons because we had those defects? Yes. But we can't reveal everything.
It's true. Can't show all the cards. Just like we can't show all the weapons.
Yep.
I think that we've been going for about 2.5.
Yes.
We should probably wrap it up because I think we're going in and we're pretty much done at this point.
We haven't heard anything from Faye.
Faye is feeling a bit burnt at the moment, she said, so we could do I could do our little eagle with her on the side with your help. And
Of course.
But we can wrap it up here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, who can we raid? My friend Mozzie's playing some Claire Obscura, which I've heard is pretty good.
I've heard nothing but good things about Claire Obscura.
All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to raid Mozzie. On the YouTube side, thank you very much for watching. And we'll catch you all on the next stream. I hope you guys have yourselves a wonderful night.
Have fun, everybody.
Good night.
Night.